Maite, how has that affected Latino students in particular, this new emphasis on testing?
I think it's been difficult for Latino students because Latino students have different learning needs. They have different language needs, cultural backgrounds, and I think students have a need for more hands-on educational opportunities. And with the focus on testing, it's really made it difficult to fit this tremendously rich and culture-rich community fit into a box. And I think that's a shame in our country because we are losing some creativity. We're losing a great amount of ideas and thinking from students who have different learning needs and are being pushed into one direction rather than developed as they are as individuals.
Along with the new emphasis on testing, isn't there also more frequent high-stakes testing where kids complete, they finish all the required courses for graduation, but then there's a sort of hurdle test on the way out the door and they end up not graduating high school? Doesn't that happen, Maite?
It does happen, and I think it's also another example of how we will affect and impact a student's opportunities for their future and also their self-esteem and confidence in themselves. And it's a real shame. It's something we absolutely need to change.
How has this new emphasis on testing looked to you, Neal?
Well, it goes back to something I said earlier, which is our K-12 system is already extremely rigid. It doesn't deal well at all with anybody who isn't what you'd call the average. And of course, most kids aren't the average because all kids are unique individuals. And the emphasis on standardized testing has made this even more rigid because we've said success is doing exactly the same skills at exactly the same age, no matter who you are. And that needs to change. And we haven't even gotten, I think, what a lot of the testing proponents would want, which is increasing scores on the National Assessment of Educational Progress or international exams. Since No Child Left Behind passed, we've had no meaningful improvement. And that's what really pushed testing on every single state and every single district. So the empirical evidence shows all this emphasis on standards and testing hasn't worked, and it really doesn't make sense when you consider that all kids are different.
Would we benefit by uncoupling, as Neal suggests, age from grade and just let you learn, as long as it takes you to learn?
Would we benefit? I think it's a little bit less than age. I think because of the unique natures, students do learn differently. I do think that because of standardized testing, we've really created a black and white approach to education. So whether it's creating age bands for content knowledge, which I think we're starting to see with teachers and others, looking at what it takes to educate students who have diverse ways of learning is important. We've seen things like project-based learning that works very well for Latino males and for others, cohort-based approaches where a teacher follows students for multiple grades rather than just one. So we've seen there are ways to surround and support students to give them a little bit of individualized instruction. Unfortunately, we don't see enough of that. And when you do find them, you find them in places like charter schools and others. And we're seeing that there is some gravitation to those schools by Latinos and other students of color to try and get to whether it's the cultural relevance and infusion in their education or other ways of teaching that really benefit students' learning.
If you're in the 12th grade at 16, we pat you on the back and say, that's terrific. You are somebody to be praised. If you're in the 12th grade at 19, there's a lot of stigma there, even though you may have learned English as a second or in some cases third language. You may be ready finally for 12th grade work at 19, but we don't pat you on the back and we don't help you very much at that stage in the game. When Neal suggests that there's not flexibility in our system to meet the needs of Latino students, it would seem that that community of all communities would embrace that approach, but it doesn't look that way. Serena?
Yeah, no, I was going to say one of the things that we've pushed for through the ESCA, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, is culturally and linguistically prepared teachers. That is to address the high number of Hispanics that are coming up, to be able to really relate and you know, to give them that assurance if they need to repeat a grade or stay longer, and to really adjust for the new population and for those retiring that are moving out. So we hope that, we feel strongly that as well as sort of serving as mentors for students to see, oh, there are other Spanish speaking, there are other Hispanic people that I can look up to and I can do this.